Welcome to Power Podcast with Queen Beauté, where mindset meets transformation. Each episode invites you to awaken your mind, expand your perspective, and rise into your power. Today, we're exploring the nature of reality. If you're sitting in the front, thank you. If you're sitting in the back, move up. Everybody needs to have out their notebooks, writing utensils, Chromebook, laptop, tablet, whatever you use to take notes, because today's lesson is a doozy. All right. So we're not just going to talk about the nature of reality and just go through the arguments that you might have around it. I mean, I am going to talk about that. I am. All right. I'm going to get to all your questions, your debates, your skepticism, all of that in this episode. At least I'm going to start in this episode. This will not be the last time I talk about this topic. But we want to use what we know, or rather what we don't know about the nature of reality in order to live empowered lives. So we're not just arguing about, well, is it, isn't it? It's, well, what are we going to do about it? What can I do with that information? All right. So you're going to take something away from this. You might be upset with me, but first of all, if you're here, my audience for all my content is for people who are smart, open-minded, and growth-oriented. So if you're in this class right now and you just heard that and you're like, that's not me, bye-bye. I'm fine with that. You can leave. Just don't disturb anyone on your way out, okay? The door is that way. Thanks for stopping by. If you are here, then it's time to blow your mind. Like, seriously. Because when I learned about this, my mind was blown. And if you're like me, if you're smart, open-minded, and growth-oriented, you might have the same reaction. All right, so let's start with, what is the nature of reality? What are we? What's happening? How does all of this work? And when I say all of this, I mean, how does reality work? So I have somebody offering that, well, there was a big bang, however many billions of years ago, and that's how the universe started. Then after a while, the Earth developed along with the rest of our solar system. Then after a while on Earth, we evolved. We started from some maybe mystery goo, and eventually all life on Earth came from there. All right. And then I have someone who wrote down in their notebook that there was a being that created us. Somebody else wrote, there was more than one, it wasn't just one. Okay, so that there is some kind of god or gods or goddesses or goddess who created us for whatever purpose. And maybe the point of our life is to serve them, etc. All right, so I read a couple, I've been walking around the class, looking at what you guys are writing down. A couple people raised their hand, and I wanted to say on the mic what they told me. Whether you believe that we are maybe these basically sacks of water walking around, there may or may not be like a heaven or hell or afterlife, reincarnation, parallel universe, parallel reality, or if you think this is the only one, there's gonna be an end and then we end up in heaven or hell. Whichever you say, I would respond with, maybe that's just the dream though. Maybe this is a dream. How do I know this isn't a dream? How do you know this isn't a dream? Okay, so I have somebody offering, well, you would know if you were dreaming because it feels different. All right, but maybe that's a dream within a dream. For anyone that's seen that movie Inception, where they were able to get inside people's dreams, and then they were able to have dreams within the dream. How would the people that are in that nested dream, the dream that's within a dream, how would they know that they're inside of a bigger dream? Would somebody in the bigger dream have to tell them? And even if they did, how would they prove it? How would they take them out and be like, look, see, that was the inner dream. You're really in this bigger dream. What kind of proof would that be, though? How do they know that they're not still in that original dream? These are some questions to seriously think about, because if we cannot be sure of the nature of reality, then why not test bigger limits, bigger dreams, bigger asks? So if we don't know how this works, because we don't, what are you going to say? Well, the scientists tell us that. The dream scientists, the ones in the simulation, maybe we're inside of a very, very advanced computer. Maybe there are humans that are running this whole simulation and they're way further involved than us. I mean, you can see it's 2025 right now. You can already see the advances in technology that we've had so far. Is it really a stretch to imagine that with advanced enough technology, we could make a simulation like this? I mean, and I think it's incredible, the movies and the shows that explore this lens, that maybe reality isn't what we think it is, because it's just, wow, it's so exciting to consider. Maybe things don't work exactly like how they say in a show. What was this one show that I watched called? It was maybe called Carbon. I'm not going to look it up right now, but it was a show where human civilization had advanced to the point where you could essentially download everything about a person onto like a little chip, like a digital chip of sorts. Like a running copy of it is on this chip, or the essence of it is on this chip. It's not a copy. It's just, there's only one. And you could change bodies, because it was like changing the cover on your phone or something like that, where as long as you had that little chip in you on the inside, and then your mentality and your personality and everything was still fundamentally who you were, but your exterior might look different. You might have a different body. I mean, hell, maybe you were a woman and now you're in a man's body for whatever reason. Maybe it was the cheapest thing that you could afford, because these things weren't free. And the only way that people could truly die was if you destroyed their chip. So you could kill the body, but if the chip was still intact, you could just put that into a new body. And then, there's people who could essentially live forever. I mean, the ones that were rich enough because they could afford new bodies, they'd have like a couple of copies ready for just in case. And then a team of people to promptly move their chip to a new body. But how do we know how reality actually works? We don't. We could be like, oh, it's a dream people telling me that, though. How is that evidence? How would I know if someone's like, oh, you can tell because da da da. But how do I know that we're not still in the dream or simulation, for example? How do we know? We don't. We don't know. We don't know for sure. We could guess, or maybe there's a god or goddess, gods or goddesses. Maybe there's nothing. Okay. The goal of me introducing this conversation, one that we will continue to have in future episodes, is, well, what can we do with that information? What can we do with the information of, well, I don't know for sure, and nobody knows for sure how reality works. How do I use that to my advantage? Is it an advantage? Let me add here that I am not directly telling you to stop believing in a god or a goddess or gods or goddesses, or to stop being an atheist, or to completely change your mindset. I am just a messenger. I just have ideas, and it's through me that you may be learning about them for the first time. That's it. I'm is conduit the right word? I'm just a vessel sharing this information with you. I don't want you to think that I'm telling you what to do. Like, you better stop thinking in this because la la la. I'm just gonna make suggestions, and then you're gonna make your choices. I can't make your choices for you. You're gonna make your choices. But I think it's important that you understand the power of mindset. And oftentimes we learn this from different sources, or we come to the realization perhaps on our own through our lived experiences. I want to share with you what I've learned, and what you do with it, that's on you. Whether you throw these notes away, delete them, walk out of the class, drop it from your schedule, I'm okay with that. That's on you. Before I get into what we can take away from this, let's go through, because you may not be ready. You may not be ready. You may not be ready to actually hear how you can live a more empowered life if you hold different beliefs, if you just have a different lens on top of your life. So first, well, not first because I already started, but let's continue going through some of the common objections that people would have to such a preposterous thought. Like, what do you mean we might be in a simulation? Queen, what? What are you trying to tell me with this conspiracy theory? I'm about to unfollow, unsubscribe because you're talking crazy. Okay. I talk about the power of mindset. Stick with me. I talk about the power of mindset. Hear me when I say this. How we think reality works is a mindset. How we view reality, how we think all of this is how this is supposed to work, is a mindset. And it's a mindset that you can change. That's not even a novel idea, right? Because there are people who believe, well, they first believed that there was an entity or entities who created us, and then eventually they changed to the mindset of, well, there's actually nothing there. That's you changing your mindset. You fundamentally are changing the way you think reality works, because first you thought there was something happening, and then now you think there's nothing happening. Or maybe it was in the other direction. First you thought there was nothing happening, now you think there is something happening. Let's say we have a person who holds the belief that there's nothing after this life. This is it. Once we're in the ground, end of story. There's no coming back. There's no afterlife. Maybe this person also holds the belief that there's not something bigger than us, messing with the controls, or able to react to our desires and our wishes and our mindset. Maybe they don't think there's any of that. They're like, nope, I don't believe it. What I would say to that person is, if we don't know for sure, though, for sure, that there's nothing there at all, why not choose to believe that we could be in a dream or a simulation and act accordingly? If this is all a dream, actually, and I don't know how it works, maybe it's a dream. Well, what would I do in a dream? I'd do whatever I wanted, right? I'm the main character in the dream and I'm going all around doing whatever I want. I mean, if you've never experienced or if you hardly ever have experienced lucid dreaming, you might feel like the dream kind of happens to you. Actually, there's a parallel with that and the way that we move through reality. You might be going through life feeling like life is just happening to you. There's nothing you can really do about it. It's largely just happening to you. And that can happen to us in dreams. Oftentimes it happens to us in dreams is we are just observing what's happening in the dream and we're kind of being pulled, maybe even against our will, into different situations. And maybe we don't understand what's happening and the dream is just happening to us. In lucid dreaming, you're aware that you're dreaming and you start making different choices because now you can. Now you can. Look into lucid dreaming. We're not going to go in depth on lucid dreaming right now. Lucid dreaming is something I'm still working on being able to do consistently, but I'm telling you, lucid dreaming is when you realize you're dreaming and then you start moving on your own instead of the dream is just moving you along and you're kind of just watching as a bystander. So to the person who's like, nope, there's nothing there, that's someone saying, I know for sure there's nothing there. Again, none of us can know for sure. Maybe we could suspect. I don't think there's anything there because if there were, I personally would need to see XYZ. Maybe your character's story is supposed to be progressing in some different way, and you holding on to needing to see XYZ is holding you back from progressing in your story. So that's one scenario, is someone who firmly believes there's definitely nothing there. All right, another scenario is, say you're someone who believes there is something bigger than you, bigger than us. And I mean, there's a range within that belief of believers. There's different types of believers in what they believe. So there might be people who, well, there are, but there are people who believe there's maybe an essence or a source. It's not really an actual entity, maybe with a name. And then there are other people who are like, no, there's an actual entity or entities with names, and they're the ones that are controlling everything. To them, I would say the same thing as I said to the person who firmly believes there's nothing there. If you firmly believe there is something there, you can't actually be sure. You can't actually be sure that you know this is exactly how reality works. It is this specifically. Maybe it's something else. Maybe it's some combination of what we currently believe with the entities. We don't actually know. We can choose to believe, oh, there is something, so I'm going to follow this path. We can choose that, but that doesn't make it true. That doesn't mean that's how reality works. So if we don't know for sure, maybe we think we have an idea, but if we don't know for sure, why not choose to believe we're in a dream or simulation? Maybe I'm in a dream and I'm dreaming up that there's some being bigger than me that controls me in the dream. Maybe that's how I'm making my dream work. That's how I'm choosing to make my dream work, is following some being that's controlling me and telling me exactly what to do and how to live in this dream. Or that there is some creator of the simulation and they say, these are all the rules and you need to do this. I can choose to believe that. I can choose to believe that there's someone out there controlling me, controlling everything around for whatever reason. I can also choose to believe that control is happening in a dream or a simulation. Another scenario is someone may be indifferent. They haven't really thought about whether there is or there isn't something, or maybe they're like, I don't know if there is, but they don't do anything with that information. They just go, oh, well, I don't know. Maybe there is, maybe there isn't. And they just kind of proceed through life, sort of how we go through dreams, where the dream is kind of just pulling us around and we don't actually take the wheel and do something about it. taking the wheel and doing something about it. What I mean by that is the lucid dreaming part, is where you're aware and then you start trying stuff. Of course, I'm not saying see if you can step off a building and fly. Come on now. That is not what I'm saying. Maybe you would try that in a dream. You're like, hey, let me see if I can fly. Maybe we're not going to go that far. Maybe we're not going to try that in particular. But what's the harm in going for bigger things? Maybe you're more bold in your dreams. Maybe you have more courage in your dreams. Maybe in your dreams, you're not caught up. You're not worried about what other people think of you because they're just dream characters. They don't really mean anything. You're the main one. You're the focus. So what do I care if some dream character, like that's nothing. What do I care about some dream character's thoughts about me? Or if I'm in a simulation, maybe if this is just a giant role-playing game, a really, really advanced one, and someone is playing through me like some kind of avatar, and the only existence I know is my own, and I can only be controlled or control my own movements, well, what would I do in a game? I would go for the adventure, right? I wouldn't just settle for doing absolutely nothing and maybe just sitting on the ground and watching all the non-playable characters, the NPCs, watch them go and do things that are more interesting. No, if I'm the main character, my goal is to explore. Even if I don't have a set destination, oh, I need to get to the castle. I need to get to this part of the world. I need to get to this level. Adventure is required. This is how we can live more empowered lives through us not understanding for sure how reality works. Because we can choose to put this lens on our life and say, well, actually, if this is a dream, what would I do in a dream? I wouldn't take this mess at this job. Why would I be working at a job that I hate? Why would I be in a relationship with someone who doesn't bring me fulfillment? Why would I waste my time? I wouldn't, right? Like if it's a dream, then I can have anything I want. So if at this point you are someone saying, nope, I know for sure how reality works, then it's your time to find the exit. It's that way. Don't disturb anyone on your way out. I mean, I need to say this because the content that I share, the people that I'm looking to encourage and empower, that's not everyone. I'm not for everyone. My content is not for everyone. And I'm okay with that. I'm definitely okay with that. I am choosing to use my energy on people for whom this can make a difference, who will think, oh, you know what? I hadn't thought of that. Let me try that. Or I did this and I'm so glad that I learned it. I learned about it from her. All right. So if it wasn't clear to you by now, we cannot prove or disprove the nature of reality. That means we can't prove that we're in a simulation. We also can't prove that we're not in a simulation. We can't prove that we're in a dream. We also can't prove that we're not in a dream, because any proof you come up with, I could just say, but that's just people in the simulation saying that. That doesn't make it true. Like, can you imagine if you're playing a video game and people in the video game are saying, no, we're not in a video game. Okay, but that was more players in the video game. So how does that prove you're not in a video game? It doesn't. Or we could say, but you don't know that for sure. Maybe you're just a dream character trying to tell me that I'm not dreaming. That doesn't mean that I'm not dreaming. Or maybe the way reality works is I'm dreaming and you're not, and I'm able to do things you can't. How do we know that's not how it works? Maybe that's why some people are successful and some aren't. Maybe some are dreaming and they're able to do those things, and maybe some aren't. It could be that you're one of the people who are dreaming and you can do things, but you're currently in a part of the dream where you think that you're not dreaming. And this is not a ridiculous conversation to have, because how we view the nature of reality fundamentally shapes how we move through it. So if I think there are certain rules and I have to stay in this limited box, then I'm not going to try to do stuff outside of that box because it's against the rules or it's not possible. Please understand me when I say this, that if you hold limiting beliefs, you are living limited. I'm going to say that again because I think I see some people in the back on their phones. Hello? I said, if you hold limiting beliefs, you are living limited in whatever areas you hold limiting beliefs. So if I think this is against the rules and I'm supposed to stay inside of this box, I'm going to live limited because I'm going to live inside of that box. So what's the downside? What could be the downside or the cost of holding the belief, this might be a dream or simulation, so I'm going to act accordingly. I'm going to go for it. I'm going to try all these different things. Because why not? I would try it in a dream. I would try it in a game, in a simulation. Well, the downside, a possible downside, we don't know for sure. If it's how reality actually works, we don't know. But what could happen is we go through life as though it's a dream and we realize limits, that it's not actually a dream. That's a possible downside. So let's say back to the flying, if in a dream you're like, yeah, I'm going to try to fly because there's no danger, there are no consequences, there's no dying here, there's just freedom. The downside, a possible downside, is let's say you're on top of a building and you're like, I know I can fly because, hey, this might be a dream. I don't know for sure, but let me try. The downside is, what if it's not a dream? Or what if it is a dream, but the rules in the dream are that you die if you step off that building because you can't actually fly? You might be risking your life trying something like that. That doesn't mean don't try to fly. That just means beware. What if you're wrong that this isn't a dream or a simulation and you actually die and you actually end, and that's maybe the end of it, the end of you. There's no coming back. So here are some options. Let's say you still want to learn how to fly, but you're not sure what the actual rules are for this reality and you don't want to risk dying for real, or you don't know if you get like a do-over in the game and you come back maybe as somebody else and you got to start all over again. Well, you could try to fly from the ground. Like you can actually be standing and then try to fly. If you really care about trying to fly, like just with your own willpower, maybe the best bet, considering we could have a really bad outcome if we're not right about being able to fly, is instead of saying, well, I'm not going to try anymore, is let me try it in a different way. Another option is you could say, well, I'm not going to try at all. I'm going to keep it safe. And I'm not going to actually risk anything just in case if I'm wrong. I don't know if I'll be right or wrong. I can't tell the future. I don't know, but let me stay safe. Well, there's a downside. There's a possible downside to staying safe. What would that be? Well, it's the opportunity cost of what could have been. If maybe you could have achieved something if you had only believed it and gone for it, you'd be missing out on that life, that possible life, because you wanted to stay safe. You didn't actually want to try. So there are different areas where we can play in this space, where if we think, well, it might be a dream, I don't know, but if it is, I damn sure am not going to be staying at a job that treats me like this. I'm definitely not going to be around people who act like this. I'm only going to do these and these things, and I'm going to speak my minds, and I'm going to be brave, and that's what kind of person that I would want to be. Why not? You those in those ways, I'm encouraging you to break free. I'm encouraging you to live an empowered life by considering you could be doing bigger things if only you believed it. Here's something big to keep in mind is we can't be what we can't believe. I'm going to say that again. We can't be what we can't believe. If you don't even believe it, there's no way that you're going to be it. It starts with the beliefs, the mindset. Of course, there's also the shattering, or at least cracking of currently held beliefs. Like if we're thinking that there's nothing at all, and then now we're considering, well, maybe there is something, and maybe I should try to mess around and see what I can get. All right, so that's that's going to take you somewhere new, right? But maybe this is part of your story. Maybe this is part of the game for you, is you reach a point where you get this bit of information, and then rather than continuing on in the same direction in which you were going, is now you go in a different direction. And maybe that is the direction that you're supposed to be going because you're going to live a better life going that way. How do you know? How do you know that this isn't what's happening? You don't. So if you don't know how things work, you can't prove it, then the choice is on you of what you're going to believe. If you're like, well, no, I don't know how things work, but I'm going to stick to believing that there's an entity or entities that are running things, and these are the rules that I'm supposed to follow. Okay. Do you think that you're living your best life? If you are, great. If you're not, and I'm going to say, how would you know whether you're living your best life, right? You can't live parallel lives and be like, oh yeah, this one's the best one, right? So you don't know if you're living your best life. What you can use to suspect whether you are is, have you gone for the biggest asks? Like, what's the biggest thing that you've ever dreamed of or that you would dream of right now? If you could have anything in terms of, let's say, health, relationship, money, career, joy, social circles, what are the biggest dreams that you have in those areas and others? I know that for me, what I think now, what my biggest dreams are, my biggest asks are, totally different from before I had this mindset. Because when I had the limited mindset and I was thus living limited of, no, I can't do that because it's not possible, or I don't think so because it's not allowed. People are telling me that it's not allowed. I'm not allowed to do that kind of thing. I'm not allowed to be that kind of way. My biggest dreams were something like, oh, I want to become a manager at this job. That sucks. Well, at least if I was a manager, I would get paid a little bit more money and I would have oversight. Maybe then they would respect me because I'd be a manager then. That was like my biggest dream. Oh, let me just be a manager. Instead of, so something now would be, I don't even want a job. I don't even want a job. Who dreams of a job? I mean, seriously, if you could dream of anything, like you say, I want to have the best dream of my life tonight when I go to sleep. Are you really telling me you're going to be dreaming of a job? That's the best dream of your life? I'm scared for you. Baby, you are so missing out. on bigger asks. There are bigger things that we can dream about than a job. And it's through thinking about, okay, well, what would I want more than a job? What is a job giving me? Why don't I just think about the thing that I think the job is going to give me and go directly to that? So if I think a job is going to give me security, or I think the job is going to give me the money, is taking the time to think through, is this maybe the best way that my character would proceed through the story? Would it be to work some low-level job or at a place where I'm unappreciated? The main character? Please. Like, can you imagine? And I haven't even watched the Star Wars movies yet, but from what I've heard, like Luke Skywalker, who's a main character, didn't start off as a main character. He was like working at his father's farm or something, right? And then someone approached him with, here's your destiny. Can you imagine if he was like, nah, I'm going to stay right here and do the farm? That'd be the end of the movie. He wouldn't have gone on to accomplish and experience all the other things that he did. If he'd stayed at that farm, he wouldn't know what he missed out on. But we see that he didn't stay at the farm and we see what he achieved. But imagine if he had, at that crucial moment, turned down the offer and said, no, I'm not curious. Or if Neo in the Matrix, when he got the message to follow the white rabbit, and then people came to his apartment and he saw a tattoo of a white rabbit. Instead of being curious, I saw this mysterious message that said to follow this. Nah, I'm going to stay in my room. That would have been the end of the movie. He went for the adventure. Heroes choose the adventure. You are the hero. You are the hero. It's your story. It's your dream, maybe. It's your simulation, maybe. It's your reality, but you are the hero. You're not watching other people and you're some side character. You're the hero. When you realize that, or when you believe it, then you can be it. Oh, I'm the hero. What would the hero do? Would the hero stand for something like this? What kind of traits would my hero have? And then you go on and live those things. So if you take the mindset, if you choose to hold the mindset that maybe I am in a dream or in a simulation, I don't know, I can't be sure, but maybe I have more power than I think I do. Maybe I can do more than I think I can. Maybe I'm holding on to limiting beliefs, and maybe I'm living limited. Let me consider, if I could do anything in my dreams, what would it be? What dreams would I have? What would I go for? What would I want to attract? What would I want to hold? What would I want to do? What would I want to be known for in my dream, in my world, in my reality? This is where you take this knowledge and you turn it into action. And you're inspired to, you know what, let me try. Okay, let's go for it. We don't know how this works, but let's test it out. Let's try it on for size. Whew. Whenever I touch on this topic of the nature of reality, things can get a little passionate, but it's because there is so much more, like an incredible amount to even contemplate when you think, hey, maybe I can do anything. Or at least, hey, maybe I can do more than what I currently believe. So I'm saying, let's consider maybe there are other levels and quests that we can unlock if only we held the mindset that it's possible. It's possible. There's more to it than I think. It's possible that I'm more powerful than I believe. I told you today's lesson was going to be a doozy, but I think I'm at a point where I'll stop the episode, not the whole discussion, but I'll stop the episode and I'll leave you with this thought. This might be a dream, so go for the adventure. Thank you for listening to Power Podcast with Queen Beauté, because transformation begins the moment your mind awakens to its power.